we've got Eric Trump, and now we've got D. Tucker Carlson in the war room. Brother, thank you.
It's good to see you.
This is, by the way, you were here years ago, Andrew Breitbart, when Andrew Breitbart lived here. You were up at the top.
I was here the
CPAC.
day it opened, and it looks exactly the same. I can't believe you're still here. I mean, that's 15 years anyway.
15 years. 2011, 14 years, going on 15 to 10.
Crazy.
What? I know since you left D.C., you are very hesitant to spend a lot of time here.
Yes.
This is not your favorite town anymore.
I spent my whole life here. I have family here. I have close family here, so I come back to see them, but not very often.
Why are you in town? You're going to spend a couple of days in town, which is quite...
I'm interviewing various people. The president's gone, but I'm seeing a bunch of people, and there's a lot going on, and I feel like there aren't many people representing the, hey, let's have less violence and focus on America's side of things. So it's worth coming just to say that out loud. Of course, you're hated for it. It's crazy how the people who are against killing are the criminals all of a sudden. It's wild. And I thought the other day, this is accelerating, and I was hearing all this, I'm going to war with Iran, and part of me was like, oh, we're not really going to do that. After we have this election whose core point was, hey, can we just pay attention to this amazing nation that we have that's suffering, and people are taking loans out to buy groceries, and we need attention and money. And
micropayments. They buy now and they pay micropayments over time. For
food. But hey, let's pay for somebody else's missile defense. No. So I start to hear this stuff, and I'm like, this can't be real. But then it becomes obvious to me that it is real, and I think that is the last conversation I want to be part of. I have zero interest in this conversation at all. I know it's all downside for me. It's not like I'm going to get rich and make more friends trying to stop.
But why is the argument that you're making? I'm making a slightly different argument, but it's Trinity. Why are you being vilified? So we just had Tom Cotton. We played clips before he got here. We had Mark Levin, Tom Cotton, and we had Bibi. Bibi said last night to Brent Baer, "Oh, it's 12 to 13 months away from the bomb was supposed to be on Friday or Saturday." Now he's telling Brent Baer on Sunday, really, we got intelligence, but it's 12 to 13 months away, which is something they've been saying forever.
It's so funny that Bibi's more honest about it than his water carriers here in the United States. You would never get Barry Weiss or Tom Cotton to admit that.
Well, Tom Cotton took a shot. He said,
he's mad at Bibi now. Bibi's
no. He took a shot.
Bibi's not pro-Israel enough.
He took a shot the same podcasters and influencers, right, or don't have the accountability, the responsibility here.
Yes, I really try. I've spent a lot of my life being cruel and really cruel, and I'll have to answer for that someday, and at times dishonest.
What do you mean cruel?
Just going after people's weaknesses. No, that's my instinct always. I mean, I grew up as a debater, and I'm nasty in some ways. And so I look at some of the players in this whom I've known since they got to Washington, since, again, I'm from here. Had breakfast at the Metropolitan Club this morning, alone. And, no, this is like my city, right? My dad worked for the government. This is where we're from. And I look at these people who I've known since they, came in from the provinces, including the senator you mentioned, who's from a state I used to live in. And, you could really be mean about it. And they are mean. They've attacked my family and all this stuff a lot. But I'm trying not to respond that way. My interest is really simple. I don't want the United States enmeshed in another Middle Eastern war that doesn't serve our interests. I saw that last time. I covered that war. I had a friend killed in that war.
Talk about Iraq, because Iraq is some of the same voices at the Fox platform
the Fox platform is just, it's so disgraceful. There's so many good people at Fox. I worked for the Murdochs for, all in over 20 years. I always liked them. I like them now. I'm not attacking them personally, and tons of people at Fox are my friends. And there's a lot about Fox that I love. And they were kind to me, always. Even when they fired me, they were nice. I just want to say that. But the one theme that runs longitudinally through the history of Fox is the promotion of wars that don't help the United States. And I don't know...
Why is that?
It's the owners are committed to that vision. And they are elaborately polite, nice people. You know them, Rupert and Lachlan. I mean, they were sitting here. There's no chance you wouldn't like them. And they're interesting, and they're smart, and they're just nice. They're super nice. But we disagree fundamentally on that. And the claws really come out at moments like this. Most of the time it's, it's fine. But when it really comes down to it, when it's a question of whether U.S. military power will be exerted on behalf of a foreign country thousands of miles from here. They are all in, and anyone who stands in the way will be destroyed. I don't think it's personal, by the way. I like Tom Cotton. I always like Barry Weiss. Barry Weiss is a very charming person. I like all these people. I always like Mark Levin. Like, I got along with him. I mean, he's blowhard, sad personal life and all that, but I was never mad at Mark Levin or Hannity. I like Hannity.
Brilliant constitutional guy.
Yeah, there are great things about all these people. I don't think they hate me personally. They know I'm not working for Qatar. Though I feel like maybe I should be working for Qatar. Like, what the hell at this point? I've never taken a dime from any foreign country or anybody, actually.
In fact, you just bought out, I think it was announced you bought out your investors.
Yeah, I'm not a money guy. I mean, they're projecting. If you could see my house, like, I've made more money than I deserve, but I've not gotten rich, and I don't live like a rich person. Everyone knows that. They're money people. That's why they're projecting, or they're people with opaque motives. My motives are, I'm like autistic about my whole life. I'm totally happy to tell you why I'm doing what I'm doing, and I want to be transparent, and I think pretty much I am. They're the ones who have these weird, complex motives, and so they project onto everyone else the same. Oh, you're getting paid by somebody. You're not sincere. You don't really think that. You're saying it in order to get clicks. Or it's also dumb, and in my case, untrue. You may dislike my views, and you may have good reason to dislike my views, and I understand that. But they're totally sincere. Anyway, my temptation in a moment like this is to go low and to note that a lot of the people pushing for this stuff have really empty, tormented personal lives. That's true of many in Washington. And that this is a way to kind of feel powerful. I mean, nothing makes you feel more powerful than killing other people. That's the ultimate power. And we talk so much about money and sex, and those are drivers of human behavior. Of course, those are powerful impulses in people to accumulate more of both. But really the ultimate power, the Promethean power, the core power is the power to kill. And when you deny that to people, or you seek to deny that to people, or you raise the point that actually you can't kill people, and that when you do, you will suffer for that. As you said the other day, and I loved it. I meditated on it in that moment in Matthew. And it's not just in Matthew. It's in John. It's in a number of Gospels, where Jesus scolds Peter for raising the sword in his defense. They're hauling off Jesus to torture him to death for no reason. All he did was heal people. And his closest disciples seeks to defend him with violence, and Jesus scolds him and then gets hauled off to be tortured. By the way,
they could have made a break. They would have stood up, and Jesus wouldn't have been seized, and it would have all gone on. But he told him right there, live by the sword, die by the sword.
And he scolds him. It's unbelievable. He's mad at Peter. It's just incredible. Anyway, whether or not you believe in Christianity, whether or not you're a Christian, it doesn't matter. It is true that people who espouse violence suffer in the end. They do. I have seen it a lot. And I grew up in a world that espoused violence. That's what the U.S. government does. My dad was involved in it. And I just believe that. And maybe you don't believe that. That's fine. That is my core belief. I sincerely think that. But why the hate towards someone who's just like, hey, I'm hard. If you think, and I said this to an Israeli official, if you think I'm anti-Israel, man, you have lost the plot, son. If you think I'm your enemy, not at all. I like Israel. Are you kidding? I've spent a lot of time there. I continue to like it. I pray that Jerusalem is not damaged. I feel so sad for the Israelis who've been killed in the last couple of days, and the Iranians who've been killed in the last couple of days, who had nothing to do with any of this. But the point is, if you think that saying, hey, let's focus on my country where I was born, where my family's been for hundreds of years, that was the promise of the last election, please do it. If you think that's hate, you've really lost perspective, I guess is what I would say. But they do think it's hate, and what's happened is what I knew would happen, which is just like, attacks I don't want to deal with that are affecting personal friendships that I care about. The viciousness and the dishonesty is almost unbelievable. Anyway, not to whine. I never whine about stuff like that. It's just that I knew this was going to happen. I didn't want to talk about it at all. I'd much rather talk about immigration. I'd much rather talk about keeping the dollar stores out of rural America. There are all kinds. I'd much rather talk about people taking out loans to buy groceries. These are the declining life expectancy in this country. Fentanyl. I mean, someone else I know just died of fentanyl last week. It's like all of that is now ignored because a leader of a country who does not have majority support in that country, probably 30% support wants a course of action that includes the United States. And I just disagree. And anyway, I think it's going to happen. I don't, who cares what I think?
Do you think we're going to join in the
Yes,
combat
I do.
offensive combat
I do.
operation? Well, we can't assume
But
that
these
we have
things
to
are
stop
never
that.
the product of look,
We have to stop
you've
that.
actually helped run the governments. I don't need to tell you. You've been there. Decisions like this are never explicitly made. They just sort of happen.
Yes.
It's sort of like living with your girlfriend. Like you wake up hungover one morning and she's there, and then she just kind of doesn't leave, and then the next thing you know, you get married and have kids. Like, that's how most people make decisions, just sort of on the basis of facts on the ground. And these things move inexorably toward what they're moving to now, which is full-scale war that includes lots of other countries, either explicitly or not, but the effect is the same. It's a world war. It's a war in which the world is participating.
Well, I think we're in the kinetic part from Ukraine, but today they just moved the carrier battle group from the South China Sea. The Nimitz is heading toward the North Arabian Sea, so they've got the tankers have flown over there. So we're pre-positioning the assets,
of course,
to get involved. And you think that this is going to happen? There's no way we can stop it.
It's too. I mean, I think there are ways to stop it. Oh, you are such a nice person. Sorry, I needed the sacred beverage. No, of course there are ways to stop it. It's just that unless you take, it's like gaining weight, which I have, lived with. It's like unless you are a crazy person devoted to being thin, you will get fatter in your 50s. Like you have to take active steps to prevent the inevitable, something that is inevitable otherwise. And in this case, what's inevitable, absent those active monomaniacal steps, toward preventing it is a much larger war. It's too easy to pull the United States into. We have too many assets in that region. We're too dependent on the energy from that region. International oil markets are. I mean, there's so many things that could go wrong. Actually, as horrifying as the exchange between Israel and Iran has been, horrifying in the sense that innocents have died, which, let me remind you, is horrifying, always and everywhere.
No,
we have to believe
Tel Aviv's got
that.
hit. Tehran's got hit. Civilians are dead.
In both places.
Right.
And if we don't think that that's sad, then we're not fully human. Like, you have to believe that's sad, and you have to really mean it. Whether or not, you can hate the Iranian government. I'm not for the Iranian government. But if you don't see the death of innocents anywhere as sad, then you are gravely diminished. Certainly as a Christian. Anyway, whatever. But there are so many ways to pull the United States into this, and the incentives to pull the U.S. in are so profound. I guess if I could just say one political thing, watching Donald Trump, who of course you know very well, who I think at core is sincere about peace. I mean,
big time.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Big time. I mean, that's real. Watching him done so wrong, the lies. Oh, he knew all along. The peace process was fake. Steve Witkoff was playing along. That is a lie. That's a lie. I know. That's a lie. Those guys meant it.
Bald-faced lie.
It's a total lie. And all these people that Mark Levin and all of the minions who are running cover for a foreign government, they're all telling that same lie. And I feel for President Trump, and I don't know this, I'm just guessing, but at this point I feel like he just has to kind of roll with it. What do you say? You don't want to get in an argument about that right in the middle of a war.
No, I think he reiterated last night that we got to get back to the peace part. They got to lay down the guns.
But they're lying about him. He sincerely, even now, he sincerely believes, whether he's right or not, I can't say, but that this could be a predicate to a peace deal, what we're seeing now. He really thinks that and wants that. And the other side is just like, no, a peace deal is immoral.
It's the other side, but the other side also has the apparatus here. This is what happened in Ukraine,
the U.S.
When Ukraine attacked.
Yes.
When Ukraine attacked, we still haven't asked Ratcliffe, was the CIA involved? There's zero probability Ukraine could attack that deep into Russia without some involvement. Here, the exact same thing. Why was Tulsi Gabbard not invited to the Camp David meeting all day?
You know why.
Why Tulsi Gabbard still to the American public has said the last public statement is that the program was not back up and running. And now we have from Bibi by himself on Fox by Brent Baer that the thing was 12 to 13 months away. It wasn't this weekend.
I know.
And this is by his own thing. And we also know that it was a decapitation, as we said on Friday. It wasn't just about the nuclear program. It's a decapitation of total leadership. So this is a total regime change, which, by the way, you may have a plan for regime change, is fine. But you got to bring the American people along. Let me go back.
By the way, I said that publicly last week. The point of this is regime change. I know everyone involved. I know I'm telling the truth. I have no weird motive here at all. I don't hate Israel. I'm not particularly...
Plus, you know the players, and you
I
went
know
and
the players personally.
And you know the Iraq situation.
This isn't a regime change effort, and why not just say that? But you're a Holocaust denier for saying that. Well, stop. Let's have a rational conversation about what our aims are here, and maybe you can convince me that we need to support a regime change war in Iran. Tell me how that plays out in a country of 90 million people. Have you thought it through? Do you even care? And the answer is no. We have a economic and political and demographic crisis in Europe because of U.S.-backed, Israel-backed
Syria
wars in the Middle East.
Yeah.
That's what's destroyed Europe, where my ancestors came from. And I spend a lot of time there, and I love European culture, which is Christian culture. And it's destroyed that. And, shut up, you're not allowed to care. Who's making the rules here? I don't hate anyone. I don't see conflict with anyone at all. I have no weird biases. All my biases are out in the open. But I really resent being told who my enemy, especially with foreigners. Some foreigner shows up and tells you who your enemies are. Really? I've been here a long time. I live across from my parents' graves. You can't tell me who America's enemies are. Or at least I have a right to weigh in on that also. Oh, shut up, says Mark Dubowitz or something. It's like, are you even from here? Who are you anyway? This is so bonkers. I don't hate Mark Dubowitz. I don't hate his agenda. What I hate, I disagree with his agenda. I'm not mad at him. I'm not mad at any of these people fundamentally. But what I seek is an honest, open, transparent conversation about what we're doing and why. And I don't think that's too much to ask for, considering it's my tax dollars and my money that you're seeking to use to achieve it. If that's radical, then, we've distorted the terms beyond recognition.
If you look at the debt, $9 trillion associated with Iraq and Afghanistan. I want to go back to Iraq. We played on Friday. We did the whole opening thing of the bombing, everything going, everybody on TV beating their chest, because at that time it looked like Israel was telling, hey, this thing's over now, people jumping in. And we finished with shock and awe from March 19th of 2003. And I said, hey, look, if you go back in that time, they were all beating their chest then in the march up country to Baghdad, and they couldn't be better. Remember, they're throwing roses on the ground, all that. And it was 20 years later, a complete fiasco, because it's always the law of unintended consequences. That's what we face here. This thing has not been thought through, right? It does not have the commitment of the American people. You have to bring the American people. The American people are not there to get into another war right now.
And why is the Congress not actively debating this? There's one person. Marjorie Taylor Greene is like the only... Oh, and now Levin says this morning she's not MAGA. Okay, all right now. Now we're really in the last scene of Animal Farm.
No, she's just some tiny congressman from rural Georgia.
She's just some liberal from suburban Atlanta. Yeah. I mean, it's also mind-bending. And I have to say, the level of unanimity, the sort of instantaneous response from 535 members of Congress that we're going to do this one thing, no debate. Anyone who says otherwise is evil. It does make you wonder, what is this system?
Are you an appeaser? You've been called now an appeaser?
An appeaser
and a pacifist, right?
I'm a pacifist.
Why have they thrown...
they're literally attacking my family.
What have you said here in the last 72 hours as a factual matter that would make you an appeaser?
I'm an American above all. I am not a genius. I'm not... prophet. I've been wrong many, many times, and it's possible I'm wrong now. But my motives are transparent. I love this country. I have nowhere else to go. I will not go anywhere else, and I just want what's best for it. We can debate what's best for it, but to tell me that I'm working for a foreign nation is like by people who are literally working for foreign nations. It's like so nuts. I will say this. Our political system is paralyzed in the face of this completely. It's not doing what it was designed to do, which is channel the views of the people through the apparatus of government. It's not doing that at all. It's short-circuiting and ignoring their opinions. And you have to kind of wonder why. And I don't fully understand it. I know that our system is not working. And I don't think there's any country on the planet looking at us saying, oh, I want that system. Oh, wow, that version of democracy, I think we should report that.
If you look at Trump as that trade deals to bring jobs back, seal the border and deport the illegal aliens, and no more forever wars, as the basic planks in November of last year that won.
Yes.
I want to speak about it is at least working at that level that the message can get out, and we have a new coalition. We have African-American men, Hispanic families. We're, Starr County, Texas, the most Hispanic county in the country, 97% hard-bitten, blue-collar Hispanic citizens. we lose to Hillary by 60 points. Trump wins in November by 16 points. It's coming our way in this new coalition.
It's incredible.
Including even some, and I get limited appetite from even the tech bros and that crowd. It's a new coalition like 1932, right? Where FDR had professors at Harvard and cracker Democrats down south and ranchers out west and people in inner cities and Irish and Italians and all that. A new coalition that could govern for 50 years.
Wasp.
One wasp. But it's something that could govern for 50 years. That's out. Now we're into the governing of it, where those are the priorities. And particularly, President Trump has now tripled down with the ICE raids and saying, hey, these sanctuary cities are going to go. We're going to get these people out of here. That, to me, is the top battle in this third world war. That we've had 10 million illegal aliens just on Biden's watch. Is it not able to we're able to win elections but not able to govern? Is that the issue?
You know, I really don't know. There's something really wrong. There are certain red lines that you can't cross, and they're almost all foreign policy related. I do think that, you know, the people pushing hardest for American involvement in a war with Iran really hate Trump's domestic agenda. Mark Levin was a never-Trumper in 2016, of course. They all do, the Bill Kristols. They all hate what Trump is trying to do in the United States. But
which is populist economics.
Yeah, they hate it. They hate it. That's exactly right. Look,
we'll see this in the tax bill.
I campaigned for Trump, with Trump. I gave up, this sounds so whiny, but like grouse season, which is my favorite time of year in October, and left my dogs at home suffering, like, where are you? And went on the road with Trump, and I loved it. And I was with him. I was standing right next to him when he won. I have a picture on my phone of that, which I would never show anybody else, but I look at it because it was one of the happiest moments. It was the happiest moment in politics, and I've seen a lot that I've ever participated in. And look, of course, governing's really hard, and you're never going to do everything you promised you would do. But on the big things, it's really important that they not get totally subverted, because it makes people lose faith in the system. And I do
But
think
the system's run, this is the deep state part of it.
What is the system?
We barely have a grip. We have
Right.
two good guys. Kash Patel's like a brother to me, and Dan Bongino, great guy. We have two people at FBI.
Yeah.
We barely have a grip there. We have a handful of people at Justice. We barely have a grip there. We have two people at Ellis and Radcliffe at CIA, right? We have a handful of people with Tulsi. On the security, we have Christie and Corey and a couple other people, you know, the Homan at DHS. But DHS is still getting people out here the old-fashioned way. That's where they're burning through cash. In these central apparatuses of the deep state, we barely have a grip on it, and they're running the deal.
We can't get the Kennedy files out 62 years later. And by the way, somebody murdered the president of the United States and lied about it for 60 years, okay? And we still can't get those files. There are thousands of documents that have not been released as of today. And everyone seems to
all of it related to somehow CIA activity or CIA suppressing information with the FBI.
Not just CIA, okay? So, look, we're living in a post-coup country.
The coup
Everything that happened
after that.
Post-1963, every elected official, certainly every official elected at the national level, lives with that hanging over him. They took out this guy, and whoever did it is so powerful that we can't even know today. When John McCone is 50 years in the grave, head of the CIA, then everyone's gone, and we still can't find out exactly what happened today.
Sources and methods.
They don't even say that anymore. They don't say anything. They're just like, oh, we released it. No, you didn't. You lie. You lie. I know. I'm from here. I know. So I do think there's a sense in which some of our leaders feel the presence of a physical threat. I don't think that. I know it. So,
well, to wit, Trump has two assassination attempts.
Well, at least two. And you can't have...
Not from Iran. Two that were...
Not from Iran, and
for Bibi to say he's got two, that's
too
reaching.
Much. I mean, I do think that Netanyahu could make his case by telling the truth. I don't think there's any reason to lie. Again, that's a lie. He knows that Iran, and then Bret Baier pressed him, and he's like, "Oh, they're proxies anyway." But the point is, you know, as a high school debater, I know how this works.
That was a pivot.
But the point is over here. It's three-card money. It's the gypsies. You know. Okay. No, Iran did not try to assassinate the president during the last election. And by the way, if Iran did try to assassinate Trump, and we know that, then why are we not at war with Iran? What are you saying, Bibi? Are you saying that the president of the United States is such a cuck that a foreign country can try and murder him and he won't do anything about it? Is that what you're saying? I mean, if the administration believed Iran was behind two assassination attempts against Donald Trump, trust me, we'd nuke the country. You're not allowed to murder an American president. So that's not true, and everyone knows it's not true. But what is true is that the American president was murdered, and we're still not allowed to know who did it and why. And I just think until that is cleared, and I've never been a Kennedy obsessive or whatever, I'm not interested in the Kennedys especially. I'm not Irish. But as a matter of like governance, how can you have a president or a senator who truly does his best to uphold the core idea of a democratic republic, which is like the people's opinions matter? You can't have that because he's worried about getting killed. That's just true. And nobody says that. I don't know. Why don't they say that? I mean, if this were happening in Liberia, you'd be like, it's not a real government, because whenever the president strays outside the pre-prescribed boundaries, he gets murdered or worries about getting murdered, pretty much the same thing. You would not describe that as a functioning democracy. And yet we just pretend that this is not happening, but it is happening. And boy, do you see it on foreign policy. It's the only issue they care about. You really think that Mark Levin cares how many Somalis are in Minnesota? No, not at all. The more the better. All he cares about is the projection of force, using American service personnel to fight faraway wars that have no material benefit, in fact, have massive downside for the United States. That's his whole orientation.
But why is that the platform of Fox, though? It's just not Mark. But why is Fox, like all weekend, it's just cheerleading? It's exact. You can play side by side Iraq in 2003.
Oh, I was there.
And here, and what's happening today? Why is it? Why is this apparatus?
Well, Levin's the funniest because he's terrible on TV. And again, I never had any problems with him at Fox. He kind of controls Hannity in this weird way. I never understood what that was about. I never really cared to learn. Sean was great to me, always nice, and so was Levin. So I just kind of stayed away. But they didn't want to put him on TV because he's screechy and he's just not a calming presence. Mark Levin on TV, oh my! Unless you're literally floating in and out of consciousness and the attendant has taken the remote to go have a cigarette, you're gonna flip the channel when Mark Levin gets on TV. It's like listening to your ex-wife scream about alimony payments. It's not appealing. So they wouldn't put him on TV. And then, Sean pushed and they gave him some kind of weekend show that nobody watched. Now I don't have a TV, but someone was just who owns a TV was just telling me that he's all over prime time. So what is that? That's not by popular acclaim. That's not like their viewer surveys. We need a lot more Mark Levin. Less Jesse Waters, more Mark Levin. Mark Levin! What they're doing is what they always do, which is just turning up the propaganda hose to full blast and just trying to, knock elderly Fox viewers off their feet and make them submit to a new war. This is
where the population, the voters, are ahead of the political class and the media. The American people do not want any more engagement in a foreign war. They saw Iraq, they saw Afghanistan. We're just out.
I think because they're racist. Is that what you're saying? No. They're just bigots.
So why is Fox continue to pound that?
Because they really, really mean it. And you saw they really mean it. I mean, there is a kind of sincerity there that I respect. I don't know why they fired me, but I think no one ever told me. And I just want to say for the fifth time, they could not have been nicer when they fired me. And they couldn't have been, more friendly. I talked to them recently, to the owners recently, because I still like them, even though we disagree. So I'm not whining about them as people, but I think they canned me from Fox or shut down my show because I criticized Zelensky, and Zelensky's close to the owners of the company. It's well, how did that happen? Why is Zelensky? I don't know. I don't understand. There's a lot I don't understand. All I know is that it's not just Fox News. It's the American media generally. It's government institutions. It's this city. It's the people I used to live next to on Chambridge Road Northwest in D.C. They are deadly serious on the subject of projection of force abroad. That is the one. They have no sense of humor about it at all. They'll lecture you all day about the gays and the black people and, in this house, we believe in science. They don't give a shit about science or black people or gays or transgender. What they care about is the projection of force against their enemies on the other side of the globe. That's why the Pentagon has $1 trillion budget when the country is protected by the Atlantic and the Pacific.
Right. And President Trump's strategy is a hemispheric defense. What then are the steps that you're recommending if the program is we must take down the deep state, or at least make some effort at it? What would be your recommendation?
You've got to get CIA under control.
And how would you do that?
By adding the number of political appointees. I think CIA has, it's a federal agency whose budget we don't know, of course. And it's not just a federal
if the president,
agency.
and I say this in all seriousness, a special government employee where you still had your podcast, you still had the Tucker Carlson network, would you go assist the president like Elon did with Doge? Would you go assist him to say, hey, give me 120 days. I will give you advice.
CIA?
No, the whole thing, CIA, Pentagon, DIA, the DNI, all of it, the FBI, DOJ, just say, hey, look, here's the battle map. Here's what we have to do, or we're not going to have, we don't really have a constitutional republic.
I mean, I'm unable to organize a sock drawer, so I don't think that I have the temperament. I don't think I have the skills for that. I'm doing.
Do you have the insight to do that? If you had other people can organize it?
I grew up around it. Yeah, I know.
I
know a lot about it.
I think this has to happen.
And
I'm being very serious.
He would be killed immediately, of course. I mean,
you think you would be subject to assassination?
I don't know. I think that would be perilous. I would do it. Look, I feel like what I'm doing now. I love Trump, and I mean that. I've never. Does Trump frustrate you? Oh, of course. I mean, you've certainly been through that. But my dogs frustrate me. My kids frustrate. I mean, you get frustrated when you deal with people you love. But my core feeling about Trump, and I think it's obvious in the way I talk about him. And I don't need any more money. I don't need anything from anybody. If I didn't like Trump, I'd just say so. I actually really love Trump. I think he's a deeply humane, kind person. And I am saying this because I'm really afraid that my country's going to be further weakened by this. I think we're going to see the end of American empire, obviously. Other nations would like to see that, and this is a perfect way to scuttle the USS America on the shoals of Iran. But it's also going to end, I believe, Trump's presidency and effectively end it. And so that's why I'm saying this.
What do you mean by that? That's coming from you.
Look, I knew Bush. I knew George W. Bush. We had, family connections to Bush. I knew Bush. Personally, I still see Bush sometimes. And, of course, he hates me, and he does because I criticized him on Iraq. And that war is the sum total, from a historical perspective, of his administration. But I knew him, and he had all kinds of plans for the things that he wanted to do. But once domestically, right, to improve the country.
Right.
And you may agree or disagree, but in his mind, he wasn't just about the invasion of Iraq in March of 2000.
Oh, no. He was going to redo Social Security.
100%,
He had all this,
100%.
All types of. He was going to take care of the entitlements issue.
And he really thought it was going to work.
Yep.
And you could laugh at that or whatever, but the point is, the second you get enmeshed in a real war, not a fake, let's go bomb the villagers and declare success, though we don't even have a good track record. Why are the Houthis still there?
No,
there's a whole other question,
right,
which is how prepared is the U.S. military for a real conflict? And the answer is totally unprepared. Scary unprepared. I don't think people understand that. But anyway, the only reason I'm saying any of this is because I really, really care. And it's been, what a disaster for me personally. I mean, it's like the last thing I wake up, all these texts, well, I can't believe you're so evil, you hate this or that. I just want to restate, I don't hate anybody. And to the extent I do hate people, I try to repent of it. I don't want to hate anybody. I really don't. I just don't want my country to be further weakened or destroyed by another one of these wars. And boy, if you can't connect the dots after 25 years of this shit, you're either too dumb to participate in the conversation, or you're, like Mark Levin, just a liar who doesn't care.
I know you got to bounce. We're going to hang up this afternoon. One question. If you were able to see the president in the next couple of days when he gets back, what would be the 2 or 3 things you would tell him, Mr. President, this is my heartfelt advice about where we are right now for the country?
I can tell you because I think I try to speak exactly the same way. You know me. I speak exactly the same in private. I use the F word more. But in general, I say the same things. And I would say to him, you're the only person who can bring peace. You should continue to try and do that. It's difficult. It takes a long time. But your timetable is the only timetable that matters. Don't get bum rushed. You don't need to fix this because there's political turmoil in Bibi's coalition. That's not relevant to America's
He's at
interests.
30% approval is not your problem.
Yeah, just because some ultra-Orthodox party doesn't want to be conscripted or whatever's going on in Israel, these are long-time problems that country has had. That's not relevant to our plans or to your plans as the leader of the free world, okay? A. B, if you get involved in a war that includes American troops and force, if you're lobbing missiles from submarines into Iran,
or combat sorties. You're doing combat sorties. I actually say we're combatant now, but I mean, you could basically argue maybe not what the air defense.
I just want to pretend we're not.
Okay.
Because, of course we are. But I want to pretend we're not because we're in the final stages of being able to pull back. And pretty soon there's no pulling back. We're still sending money to Ukraine to fight Vladimir Putin. Like, how did that happen? It happened because nobody just stopped it. Nobody said, hey, Zelensky, you're not even elected. You're a dictator. Off the stage, run to Switzerland. Get out of here.
No, the intelligence services are helping from Wiesbaden to plan the 3,000-mile strike into their strategic assets in the country.
The U.S. intel services are also fully aware of the many assassinations and assassination attempts against opponents and critics of the Ukrainian regime. Many, including someone I know. So this is super dark, man. The more you know about it, it's like the U.S., the IC, American intel community is aware that the Ukrainian intel community is murdering people, including Americans? Like, how can that even happen? So there's a lot. But the last thing I'll say is the second I've seen it, the second the killing starts, the calculations change. People become much less principled, much less reasonable, much less able to see
vengeance and annihilation.
And they can't see their own interests clearly. And so don't go there.
And you think right now we're on the cusp of that?
I'm an optimistic man, and I think that we could pull back. And I wish the president wasn't in Canada. I don't wish a trip to Canada on anyone because I think it's a really dark country. I hope he gets home soon because you don't want any of that Canadian to rub off on you while you're there. But yeah, I mean, I think that this can be stopped, but it's going to require a really tough step, which is to say to our client state, we love you, we want to help you. We don't think you're acting in your own interest, but we could debate that. But what we're not going to do is imperil American national security or the American economy or America itself on your behalf. We're not going to do that because that's immoral for us to do that. Our population doesn't want it, and we're saying this with love. But no, as you would say to a child. I mean, you've got a bunch of kids. You say no to them. Of course you do because you love them. It's okay to do that. And their proxies in the United States and Barry and that Levin character will jump. You hate them. Don't hate them at all. I like them. This is crazy. What's the end game here? The end game, of course, is to topple the regime and just have this 90 million person civil war and further destroy Europe and the world. And it's like we're not doing that again. We've already been through this. We're not doing that again. And this is big boy stuff. This is not Gaza. And I never say anything about Gaza because I really tried, very offended by it. They blew up a church in Gaza with my money. I'm a Christian. Like, no. How about no? I said one thing about that, man. I've never heard the end of it. But I've tried to stay away from Gaza. But now we're talking about a huge country. We're talking about Southwest Asia, one of the biggest energy producers in the world.
And an ancient civilization. This is not...
Also, since you're not going to convince me that the Iranians, I'm not a Shiite. I'm not, like, on the side of the Shiite clerics. I'm a freaking Episcopalian. Settle down. However... you're not going to convince me that the Iranian people are my enemy. Again, we're going down this here. Here's who you're required to hate. It's Orwell, man. I'm a free man. You're not telling me who I have to hate. I'll decide who I like and don't like on the basis of my values and what I believe my interests are. They spent 5 years telling me Vladimir Putin is your enemy. No, he's not. I'm not mad at Vladimir Putin. Tell me why I should be. I'm mad at you. You know what I mean? This is like whatever. It's all so fake. I'm not playing along.
And here you're going to be doing interviews to take it up a couple of notches.
I really just want to get away from this topic because it's one of those topics that intersects with a lot of other things. So it's not like Belgium is getting frisky with Liechtenstein and like I have an opinion on that. This is a country that's at the very center of the three biggest religions in the world. That is a Jewish state. So whatever that means exactly, and so it has an emotional resonance for Jewish people in America, some of whom are my close friends, that is different from any other country. It's not like, when things happen in Sweden or the UK where my ancestors are from, people aren't quite as emotional. It's very emotional. So I don't want anything to do with it at all. I don't want to criticize Bibi. I don't want to talk about Gaza. Look, I feel completely backed into a corner here where it's like we are on the cusp of entering a war on behalf of a political leader in a faraway country that's going to really hurt my country. I've got 4 kids. I want to have grandkids. Like, are you even joking? Stop. And I tried to be like quiet about it. I don't want to get involved in any of this because, again, people are so emotional. How could you? I mean, you should see my text this morning. I got threatened by someone this morning, actually, who I like.
Threatened as by a friend, a colleague, or somebody that just came and said it's too much?
It's very careless what you said. It's very careless. Careless? I was like, hey, asshole, I know what you're saying. I got it. Very careless. Anyway, whatever. I'm not whining. I'm not AOC. Oh, I'm under such threat. I'm not under threat. But what I'm saying is I don't want to be involved in this at all. And I think most Americans don't. And it's only because
we're inexorably getting drawn into a war.
By a tiny minority of people. Like, I know a million people who are pro-Israel and Jewish, or pro-Israel and not Jewish, like me. I've always been pro-Israel. Who were like, I don't think this is good. It doesn't, like, why do we allow 3% of the participants in this conversation to, like, define the terms? You know, if you are okay with any Iranian enrichment at all, you're for the Ayatollahs and you're against Israel. What? Shut up. No, I'm not going to allow you to define the terms. You're a total liar. I mean, these are liars. Like, for real, will say anything. I'm working for Qatar. Trump was actually pretending to go through a peace process. And
no, that thing was terrible.
And Steve Witkoff, who I know very well, who's one of the most pure-hearted people, whether you agree with them or not. If you're calling into question Steve Witkoff's motives, like, Witkoff doesn't need any of this. He's just doing it because he wants to help. That's it. That's the only. He's paying for it himself. And if you're telling me that Steve Witkoff is working for Qatar, that's what set me over the edge, because I know Witkoff well, and I really love Steve Witkoff, and I think I don't agree with him on everything, but I think he's like a decent man who wants what's best for Donald Trump, his best friend, and the United States. And that's enough for me. Like, I see his motive as pure. It is pure. I know him well. And when they're calling him an anti-Semite, it's like so nuts. That's when I was like, I can't believe I have to get involved in this, but because it's too much. It's just too much. You can't let that go unresponded to. You have to stand up and say, I'm sorry, that's just not true. That's a lie, and you know it's a lie.
But you're not going to back down from this. You're going to.
I want to back down immediately. I just want to get away from this. I want to go back. I'm missing a lot of my favorite things and a lot of my favorite people. I don't want to argue about Israel of all subjects. Oh, my gosh. And I don't want to become, I'm not going to become a crazy person or a hater. Part of the dynamic here is you become the things they accuse you of being. Like, I've seen this happen to many people, not many, but I have seen it happen, where they say, you love Putin. They said that to me for years now, and then one day you're like, fuck it, I love Putin. Okay. I think Putin's an amazing leader. I've always thought that, but I'm not like a close friend of Putin's. They can drive you to become a worse version of yourself by accusing you of being it. You sort of grow into the attack. And there's no chance I'm going to let that happen to myself. There's just no chance. I'm not going to become a hater. I'm not going to become obsessed with Israel. I just want to get away from the topic. A lot of other things going on. Just stop trying to drag my country into war. That's it.
Tucker Carlson, thank you so much for coming by.
Good to see you.
I'm just in the neighborhood. Drop by. Tucker and I will be hanging out this afternoon, I guess.
I can't wait. I'm going to ask you lots of hard questions.
Lots of hard questions. Hopefully I'll have some answers. Let's take a short commercial break. We got a rolling break. Let's go and take a short commercial break. Tucker, thank you for coming by.
Thank you. Oh, my gosh, I love it.
We'll see you here this afternoon. Thank you. Remember the old days?
It hasn't changed at all. Like, at all.
It's still very gonzo.
Yes,
very
it's
gonzo.
quite gonzo.
Very gonzo. Short commercial break.